Welcome to The Explainer. You know, if you've ever felt like your French is just a little stiff or maybe kind of repetitive, you're going to want to stick around. Today, we are unlocking two tiny but seriously powerful words that are going to completely change the way you speak. We're talking about the pronouns en and y.
Okay, so let's get right into it. One of the biggest things that can make French learners sound, well, like learners, is repeating the same noun over and over. It totally works, people will understand you, but it just doesn't sound very natural. It's kind of like saying, "Do you want some salad?" "Yes, I do want some salad." We just don't talk like that in English, and they don't in French either.
I mean, just look at the difference here. The response on the left is clunky. It's technically correct, sure, but the one on the right, so much smoother. And that tiny little word, en, that's the secret ingredient. It makes the whole conversation flow, and that smooth, native sound is exactly what we're going for.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to meet our two little pronoun heroes, en and y, and figure out exactly how they work. Then we'll see how to use them in some trickier sentences. And to wrap it all up, I'll give you a super simple cheat sheet so you never forget. Sound good? Let's do it.
Okay, first up is en. Probably the easiest way to think about en is that it's your stand-in for phrases like some of it, of them, or even from there. The big idea is that it's all about replacing things that are connected to the preposition de. So here's the golden rule. You ready? You use en to replace any noun that follows a word indicating a quantity, like une, des, or du. Basically, if you see the word des in there somewhere, a little light should go off in your head that says, "Aha, I can use en here."
And actually using it is a piece of cake. It's just a simple three-step process. First, you spot the phrase you don't want to repeat. Second, you swap that whole thing out for en. And third, you just tuck en right before the verb. That's pretty much it.
Let's put it to the test with a super common question. Someone asks you, "Avez-vous des enfants?" Do you have children? The part we want to get rid of is des enfants.
So instead of repeating enfant, you just say, "Oui, j'en ai deux." Yes, I have two of them. See how clean that is? En just takes the place of des enfants and slides right in front of the verb ai, which means I have, way smoother.
All right, let's try it another one. Someone offers you coffee. Voulez-vous du café? The phrase we're zeroing in on this time is du café, meaning some coffee.
And the perfect, natural response is, "Oui, j'en veux bien." Yes, I'd love some. Once again, en just steps right in for du café, and it goes right before the verb va. And just like that, you're sounding a lot more like a local.
Okay, let's bring in our second hero pronoun, y. It's actually really simple. If en is your shortcut for anything involving de, then y is your go-to for anything involving the preposition a. You can just think of it as meaning there or about it.
Now, what's so cool about y is that it does double duty. It can replace a physical place, like to the store, but it can also replace an abstract idea, like I'm thinking about it. As long as the original phrase would have used a, y is your guy.
And the best part, the placement rule is exactly the same as it was for en. So if someone asks, "Tu vas à Paris?" Are you going to Paris? Our trigger is that little preposition à. The phrase to replace is à Paris.
So the smooth reply is just, "Oui, j'y vais." Yes, I'm going there. Y takes the place of à Paris, and, you guessed it, it pops right in before the verb vais. It's simple, it's elegant, and it's so much more efficient.
Okay, you've totally got the basics down, so now it's time to level up. Let's check out how these pronouns behave in negative sentences and in commands, because the placement rules get just a little bit trickier.
When you make a sentence negative in French, that little pronoun likes to stick right next to the verb, so it gets kind of sandwiched between the ne and the verb, inside that whole n'est pas structure. So I have some is j'en ai, but I don't have any becomes je n'en ai pas. See how it's tucked in there?
But, and this is a big but, there's one major exception you really need to remember. When you're giving a command, what grammarians call the imperative, the pronoun's position does a complete flip. So if you're telling a friend, "Have some coffee," the command is prenez-en. Notice how en jumps to the end of the verb, and it gets attached with a little hyphen. That hyphen is a super important detail for giving orders or making suggestions like a pro.
All right, I know that was a lot to take in, but honestly, it all just boils down to a few key ideas. So let's pull everything together on one final cheat sheet to really lock it all in.
This is the heart of it all, right here. If the phrase you're replacing involves de, for a quantity or an origin, you use en. If it involves a for a place or an idea, you use y. Just think, en for some of it, and y for there.
And here are your 3 placement rules. That's it. In a normal sentence, it goes right before the verb. In a negative one, it's sandwiched inside the ne, pa, and in a command, it hops to the end with a hyphen. If you can remember these 3 spots, you are totally set.
So there you have it. You now have the tools to make your French conversations flow so much better. But mastering these 2 actually brings up a brand new, fascinating question. What happens when you have to talk about taking some of it there? Which pronoun gets to go first? Well, that's a puzzle we'll solve next time.